Oh, I'm not supposed to be here. Wait, does that mean...
Yeah, there was a change of plans. You know how to play now.
You sick son of a... Hey folks, it's Indieguy, and today I wanted to go back to Bionicle with none other than Bionicle Heroes. Released back in 2006 and developed by none other than TT Games, which were responsible for games like LEGO Star Wars, LEGO Batman, and other critically acclaimed LEGO games. So with such pedigree behind this dev team, you would imagine that this is gonna be a good game, right? Right? Oh Christ, this isn't good, is it? Okay, but to start off, what's a Bionicle? Well, if you're here, chances are that you already know what they are, but for those that don't, it used to be a LEGO toy line that ran from 2001 up until 2010. It was widely known for having a very deep and interesting story. One that starts off at the 8 paradise shores of the island of Mata Nui that has been terrorized by the evil Makuta and his minions. One day, 6 canisters arrive at the island carrying each one to a warrior whose job is to awaken what is basically a god that also goes by the name of Mata Nui and stop Makuta. Over the years, these Toas stopped several evils and managed to find the legendary Toa of Light that finally defeats Makuta once and for all. Wink wink. But after relocating to their old home of Mata Nui, the City of Legends, the 6 original Toa, now in their powered up Nuva form, head for the island of Voya-Nui to search for the Mask of Life, so they can fulfill their destiny and awaken Mata Nui with it. And they don't succeed. So 6 matoran, that are the villagers of this universe, go in search of the missing Toa and end up becoming Toa themselves. These new Toa find the island in ruin and its population enslaved and weak. This was the Piraka's handiwork and a product of their own greedy search for the mask. But let me tell you something, that doesn't be damned, these boys be spitting straight bars under my goddamn. Move over, Sauce Move, this is some DJ Khaled quality shit. Sorry about that. This is all good and all, but what does the game do with this? Oh, good you ask, cause they fucking do nothing with it. There's no explanation for why you're in Voya-Nui or who you are besides the intro cinematic. And remember the Piraka? I joked about them being ballin', which they fucking are, but they were a force to be reckoned with. They beat the toughest and most experienced Toa force with ease. In here though, they're comic relief villains. I guess them being comic relief is unavoidable. This is a TT game after all. There has to be slapstick somewhere. Still, I wish they had handled the story just a bit better than they did. But I guess the development was more focused on the gameplay. Holy shit, they did not focus on the gameplay. Okay, I'll address the elephant in the room. This is an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter. Yep, much like games like Resident Evil 4 that was suspiciously released just a year before this game, but we'll get to that. Unlike Resident Evil though, this game, it's extremely easy. And you wanna know why? Because you're using aimbot. Yeah, you see that green laser coming from your eyes? Yeah, that means that you're locked into an enemy or an object. This just makes the game boring. If most of your shots hit, then there is no difficulty to the combat. But let me tell you something, if you are looking to squeeze some difficulty out of this, you best play it on the consoles. No, not those ones. Those are completely different games. But why is it harder on the consoles? Well, it isn't harder per se. It's just that you can't stray. Yeah, again, just like an RE, you too have tank controls. This is such a weird way to make an action third-person shooter, especially considering that there had been others before this one that had made a functional control scheme. The funny thing is that you can very easily strafe on PC and on the DS. So yeah, DS supremacy, I guess. But just make it a bit easier since it wasn't easy enough already. You also have hero mode. Now, when you destroy objects in the levels and when you kill enemies, you'll pick up several Lego pieces that act like the studs from the other Lego games, only stylized to fit this setting. So as you pick them up, you'll fill up a meter on the top of the screen. When this meter is full, you'll enter hero mode. This exists so you can get past certain obstacles by building these weird looking golden creatures. Now, this would be an okay feature, if only you didn't become invincible. Yeah, you're basically trivializing what is already trivial. This is just weirdly designed. I guess we'll never know why. But what about the characters? Are they any different from each other? Surprisingly, yeah, they are all a bit different. You can play as all 6 Toa, and in free play, you can play as the Piraka whose chapter you're in, but only after you beat him. And finally, you'll be able to play as the final boss when you beat the game, which is the biggest cuckery in this game. Well, second biggest. You see, when you finish the game, you won't be able to play as the Piraka anymore. You can only play as the final boss. I mean, he does everything the Piraka did and more, but I would still love to play as them. The Toa though, feel good. You can divide them into 2 rough categories based on their walking speed. The Toas of fire, water, and air are the fastest, and the Toas of earth, stone, and ice are the slowest. They also have different weapons. Jowler has this sort of blaster that does pretty weak damage, but has a nice fire rate. This is also the case for Holly's laser, though I prefer Jowler's weapon. After that, you have Kongu's shotgun that deals a lot of damage at close range. There's Matoru's railgun that can pretty easily one-shot most enemies and comes with a scope, but if you're not aiming at medium ranges, it will not lock in by itself. And finally, we have Yuki's and Nuparu's explosive weapons. Yuki has a rocket launcher that deals a very underwhelming amount of damage and takes a long time to shoot. Nuparu, on the other hand, has a godly grenade launcher that deals tons of splash damage. The weapons can also be upgraded, and they have 3 stages. And even though the upgrades from level to level aren't substantial, they are felt, especially on Nuparu. God damn! In terms of enemies, there are actually kind of a lot of them. But not really. You have the Borak, the Vaki, and the Vizorak, and they all have their own variations. Those variations either create a shield barrier, turn invisible, or are just plain stronger. The thing is that they get thrown in your face so often that you'll lose track of what you're shooting. And this is besides the fact that, again, they don't really pose a threat. I talked about the aimbot, but that is not the only factor in question. It's also their tremendous lack of will to live. Well, at least their models look great. Actually, all the models in the game do. Not just the enemies or the Toa, but also the destructible objects. They were all entirely based off the actual toys or stuff that you can build with those toys, which is a pretty nice touch. As you go through the levels, you'll eventually find secrets, and in true TT fashion, they are locked behind your progression through the game itself. But there is one major difference. In LEGO games, you'll be able to purchase several characters that will unlock secrets when you return in free mode. In here, however, there are only 2 characters to unlock. Well, technically there's just one. But this just throws a wrench in the works. What the devs did to combat this was to add upgrades to the Toa, which you can purchase in the hub area. You have 3 things to upgrade in each Toa. Your weapon, that we already talked about, your health, and your ability, which is what unlocks these secret areas. Now, you'll have a basic ability that you'll be able to use in certain situations, but when you upgrade them, you'll finally be able to reach those secret areas, which are always marked with the Toa's profile with a little plus on top. This is an interesting solution, but it's a bit too easy to get most of the collectibles in a level in your first go because of it. You'll never get all of them, but you'll get close to it every time. Though not all abilities were created equal. Most of the times you'll be using Yuki's more than anyone else's, though for secrets it's a little bit more of an equal spread. Except for Nuparu, his upgraded ability serves to fucking dig up dirt, I guess. You do have to have some imagination for this one. And yeah, you can upgrade your health. You won't have more hearts, but the ones that you already have will turn silver, and you'll be able to endure more punishment. Again, making the game a bit more easy. But all in all, I do like the upgrades to the Toa. They do give a bit more depth to this kiddie pool of a game. Now, what about the levels? Are they interesting like some in other LEGO games? Well, the answer is simple. If you like doing the same 4 fucking missions 6 times over, then you're in luck. Yeah, you basically have 6 chapters with 4 levels each. 3 of those levels consist of you running through the map and being greeted at the end by a big fight. Out of these 3 levels, you have 2 boss fights. The first one in the first level will always be with a rock sheet, while the second boss fight in the third level will be with a random villain from Bionicle's past. And fucking Axon, for some reason, the dude was a fucking good guy. What the hell is he doing here? They do try to mix up the formula in the last level though. You won't just have 1 boss fight, no, you'll have 2 of them. Yeah, you'll have a boss fight with the Piraka, and then the big bad evil guy will come and try to steal a severed head. For some reason, I don't know why he needs it. Look, it can be a nice thing to have a lot of boss fights, but to make them fun, you have to make them different from each other. These just boil down to getting hero mode by killing the smaller enemies, building a structure once or twice, and then hitting the boss when their shield is down. This is just bad design. It isn't even the fault of the difficulty this time, though it doesn't really help. This is on top of the fact that after a couple of levels, it'll just start to get really boring. The mindless repetitiveness will most likely turn you off from the game. Not to say that there isn't fun to be had, it's just in smaller bursts for me. The lack of variety in the levels is genuinely frustrating. It doesn't offer a rich experience in terms of replayability. Yeah, they might have different layouts, but after the second chapter, you're just no longer surprised, that's all. But if you decide to stick with it, you will find that the levels themselves look actually pretty cool. Especially when it comes to the ruins, or these huge statues, or even the machinery that you can very clearly see is not native to this island. It really feels like Voya-Nui is a desolate place. A place broken by evil. It's a shame that the game has this stupid fucking blur filter. It looks like someone smeared Vaseline all over the camera. This shit looks like a fucking Blade E music video, what the fuck? By now, you already know that this game is super easy and boring and repetitive, but there has to be a reason for that. This time though, I have answers. They are at times shaky, but most is actually set in stone. The game wasn't supposed to be a third-person shooter. At first, it was supposed to be an FPS. Somehow an idea that I can get behind more than a third-person shooter for a Bionicle game. And in reality, you can spot a lot more details in first person, which stops the game from being the mindless slaughter it is at times, bringing you even closer to the action. There were even more cool things that got scrapped. Look, there's even the little portrait for your Toa, just like in Doom, which is funny because the movement is also similar in both games, though just in the sense that you can strafe front to go faster. Bad in the fact that there's a Bionicle Doom mod. This is actually not bad. Now, hero mode didn't exist. Instead, it was this brick throwing ability that could harm enemies as well as build the golden construction. This system being white makes a bit more sense since in theory you can run out of bricks, basically soft locking yourself. Though I don't know if making you invincible is really the way to go. This is cool and all, but it still doesn't answer my question directly. If anything, it raises even more, like, why did they change it? Well, it all boils down to the ESRB, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, also known as the guys that rate retail games in the US. You also have to understand that times change. This was back in the mid-2000s, and the FPS genre was a bit more taboo than it is today. You wouldn't have an FPS be rated lower than a teen rating, even if they featured no explicit violence whatsoever, like Metroid Prime for instance. And we're talking about LEGO here. Even though this era in Bionicle was marked by an age-up marketing campaign, it's still in theory directed towards kids. Hence, a teen rating would be unacceptable for LEGO. They'd be losing their target demographic, their bread and butter. This posed an obvious threat to the development of the game, which was already at a somewhat advanced state. And by the footage shown by John Burton, the founder of TT Games, in his channel, that I'm so graciously stealing right now, this looked pretty good. Of course, in a proof of concept sort of way. TT Games
had 8 months to spaghetti some code on the fly to make a ton of stuff work, like the new camera, the new hero mode, and more detailed models for the characters to go along for both of these things. Not to mention that they also had to restructure the levels themselves for everything to work. They had to literally cut some maps in half. That's why you can see the ending of some levels and the beginning of the next one, which I'll have to give them that. It is a pretty nice touch. Also, if you're wondering why I'm stealing footage from another creator, it's because this is the only footage we have. This build has yet to reach the public and might never do so at this rate. This time, I don't think it's fair to point out publishers' greed or dev team overextension as causes of this game's jankiness. This time, the enemy was unseen, yet right in front of us. One can only imagine how the game would have turned out if it had stayed as an FPS. With that said, is the game that we got bad? Not really. I have to admit, I did have a blast at times, though the game has major flaws that stem from a troubled development. Even with all this, I think that TT did a great job hiding the fact that this game was rushed. It's very obvious in Bionicle the video game, but not so much here. You do get the faint smell of rushness at times, but never an alarming amount. With that, I think that the game deserves a 4 out of 10. The repetitiveness and the brain-meltingly easy difficulty of the game make it impossible for me to give it a higher score than that. But please, don't be deterred from playing the game. It has flaws, but it can still be fun to play, especially if you are really into Bionicle. Before I go, I'd like to shout out CG Footloose or Super Mario 64 ZX353 on YouTube. He was the one that helped me out in the research for this video, and he got me this sick background that looks great. If you are interested in speedrunning this game, which is pretty fun, look up his channel. He's great and he's a very nice guy. But yeah, that's it. See ya. This is odd. Usually some little characters show up. I don't know where they are. No one? Really? That's it? Well, that's... No, that's fine. Where is everyone? I'm so lonely.
I promise you I'll always be right here. I'm right next to you.